Welcome to Planning for Your Course, creating engaging learning experiences for your students. After you complete this session, there is a brief quiz you need to take to check for understanding. By the end of the session, participants will be able to identify course requirements, find course assignments and assessment which have been designed for the course, understand the level of instruction needed and the timing of each assessment and major assignment, learn how to create classroom activities and experiences which will guide and support students to success in the course, and understand the importance of reflection in the teaching and learning cycle. It is important for you to understand the big picture of your course outcomes, and the documents listed here will help. We're using CRJ 1010, a criminal justice course, as an example. Open or save all of the documents needed for this session. When you receive access to your course materials 14 days prior to the start of the semester, the same documents for your course are available in your Canvas course. At any time during the session, you are able to pause, go back, review, and reflect to help clarify any questions you may have. Let's begin by discussing the framework of an effective teaching and learning practice. An instructor is charged with the job of careful and strategic planning in order to engage students in a way that will best prepare them to be successful for upcoming assessments. The teaching and learning cycle represents 4 stages that occur in the design and delivery of classroom engagement plans and focuses on student learning goals. In the cycle, instructors go through a continuously repeating process of planning instruction, teaching, assessing, and reflecting. In most cases at Baker College, course assessments and even assignments have already been put into place for you. This training will focus on the importance of creating meaningful experiences and activities, which will foster an active learning environment to help guide students to be successful when they complete prepared assessments and assignments. Take a few moments to read the description of the course. Notice any prerequisites needed that will help you understand where your course fits within the program of study. Noting this aspect may also help you to understand what type of prior knowledge students should have as they enter your class. Be sure you are aware of all the necessary resources for the course. Pay special attention to the correct edition of the textbook, which is required for the course if there is one. Note, you may need to ask your program director for an updated copy of the textbook if you do not have the right edition in your possession. These documents will allow you to see how each chapter reading and significant assignment aligns with each student learning outcome or enabling objective for the course. We will get to the SLO document in a few moments, but for now, just think of the SLO as the stated end goals that the students should be able to reach and/or achieve by the end of your course. The tables shown in these documents will help you to make strong connections between each assignment and how it can be aligned with the overall goals. This information is very useful in the planning stages, but it is also helpful to remind students of these connections as the course progresses throughout the semester. Ultimately, these documents are designed to help you recognize that assignments and assessments have been carefully planned and plotted with scope and sequence for the course and the program in mind. Remember, you are expected to be able to help students to make strong connections between required readings, assignments, and overall goals for the course. In this PD, we will concentrate on how to develop in-class experiences and activities which will help your students engage with the learning. Let's take a look at the assignment summary. As you can see, this document is designed to guide you with a week-by-week listing of required assignments and assessments and how many points each is worth. Every class taught at Baker College is worth 1,000 points. Take a look at the CRJ 1010 assignment summary and note that each week is labeled as a module. Now, look at the end of this document to see how many discretionary points you have for your course, if any. If this is not included, adding the points up can quickly determine if you have discretionary points. Any questions you have can be directed to your direct supervisor or campus academic affairs contact. Take note. Pay special attention to this document as it is part of the Faculty Quick Start Guide to Canvas, specifically that instructors add all discretionary assignments, including directions, rubrics, points, and due dates, to the modules and the assignment summary. Once you have downloaded the assignment summary specific to your course, you can save it and begin editing the document by right-clicking once inside of the document in order to add or remove rows as necessary. Once you have gone through the session, reviewed your course materials, and made some decisions on what activities and experiences you would like to include in your course, the assignment summary will need to be filled in completely, saved, and uploaded to your course in Canvas. Optional. You may wish to take some time to plot the required and planned assignments and various assessments on a blank calendar or weekly table, electronic or hard copy, which can be used for planning. Then you can go back and fill in the assignment summary document with any additional information before uploading it to your Canvas course. Not all courses have discussion board suggestions, but if they do, they may prove useful if you have discretionary or open points in your course. Please note that a discussion board rubric has been included in your course. Even though you are teaching an on-ground course, you will need to be mindful of the Faculty Quick Start Guide to Canvas preparing for your course. Take a moment and read through this document to be sure you understand what is expected of you by Baker College with respect to Canvas communication and engagement. Let's continue our investigation of course materials by looking at the student learning outcomes and enabling objectives for your course. Student learning outcomes help the instructor understand where students need to be by the end of the class. The enabling objectives tell the instructor what assessments or projects students need to be prepared to do. Additionally, some SLOs will also provide the big ideas and essential questions for the class. Big ideas are the important concepts that shape the course. The big ideas become the overarching goals of the course, and they are timeless. Therefore, you should be able to go back to them 5 years from now and find that they are still applicable. Essential questions are questions that foster inquiry, understanding, and the transfer of learning related to the big ideas. These questions are open-ended and thought-provoking. Instructors will want to use these questions often during the course as they foster rich discussion. Additionally, instructors may use these questions as discussion questions in Canvas. In a practical way, this SLO document will help you to understand your course requirements and help to give you an understanding of how and why certain assessments were designed for your course. While reviewing the outcomes and objectives, begin with the question of, what do your students need to know and be able to do by the end of the course? Each SLO or EO for the course can easily act as a guide for how you should engage your students through meaningful activities and experiences as you help students successfully navigate their way through the course. Now we will take some time to dig a little deeper into the importance of specific verbiage, which can be found in the Student Learning Outcomes document. But before we do, let's discuss the significance of engaging our students in meaningful experiences and activities. While you have good materials which are provided by Baker College, you will want to be well prepared to develop engaging experiences for students which lead them to each planned assignment and assessment. Designing learning experiences and activities is the most tangible part of your course design. Baker College is a learner-centered institution. We know that students learn and achieve at a higher level when they are actively engaged with the content of their course. As a general rule, students should not be in a sit-and-get environment or attempting to learn in a passive fashion. Baker College encourages instructors to design experiences and activities where students can grapple with course content while engaging with each other, the textbook, supplemental materials, and the content expert, you, the instructor. We will discuss several different strategies for designing these learning opportunities in just a few slides. Let's discuss the importance of Bloom's taxonomy and intellectual levels of learning. In the 1950s, Benjamin Bloom and a team of psychologists developed the classification of levels of intellectual behavior important in learning. The use of Bloom's classifications is the standard within education. Take a moment to read over the Bloom's taxonomy pyramid and review the descriptive question for each level of Bloom's to gain a better understanding of the classification levels. Remembering, can the student recall or remember the information? Understanding, are they able to explain ideas or information? Applying, can the student use information in a new way? Analyzing, are they able to distinguish between different parts? Evaluating, can the student justify a stand or decision? Creating, are they able to create a new product or point of view? Based on brain research, the more we can get our students to the application level or above, the greater increase in student learning and the transfer of learning we achieve. Something to keep in mind is that first and second grade students can apply what they have learned in their classrooms. Therefore, any student can be held to this level of learning. We don't have to wait until our students are sophomores in college to expect them to be at the applying level. Conversely, there are times when it is appropriate to have students operating only at the remembering level. It is dependent on the course and the goals of the course. Now that you've been introduced to the Bloom's intellectual levels of learning, let's discuss the preliminary steps needed when planning for student engagement. We can try to walk into the classroom and wing it, but after a week or so, your students will know that you're walking into the classroom unprepared. Developing and using an engagement plan not only makes teaching easier, but it provides you with a plan of action, guides you in arriving at your destination, helps to meet the student learning outcomes, and fosters student success by providing essential guidance as they prepare for the next assessment. As you make the effort to become comfortable creating engagement plans, you save yourself a great deal of time and reduce the stress of dealing with confused and sometimes disgruntled students whose poor performance is a direct result of poorly designed engagement plans. Since most, if not all, assessments have been set in place for you, we ask you to focus your attention on planning for engagement. Here are some helpful steps when planning for engagement. First, identify the level of assessment by looking at the action verb used in the student learning outcomes. Some examples of verbs may include words like analyze, define, describe, deduct, design, develop, build, create, research, present, etc. You may even be able to discern that your entire course mostly falls into one or two levels of Bloom's taxonomy. Therefore, your job will be to develop experiences and activities that help students engage with course material and concepts at that level. Second, design a useful in-class experience or activity where students get to discuss, visualize, mirror, and engage in the practice of doing something similar to what will be required of them in the upcoming graded assignment or assessment. This can also be done in a Canvas discussion question. Third, decide how you will model the activity for your students and how you can behave as the guide on the side as students engage fully in the activity. Essentially, you will act as the coach while students are participating in the activity or learning experience. Lastly, reflect on the success of the engagement activity or experience. Decide if more or similar engagement is needed or if the experience needs to be altered in some way. Decide if the activity or experience was largely successful engaging the students at the correct levels of blooms. Next, we will look at some examples of how to pinpoint the correct level of blooms while designing your engagement experience or activity. Find the blooms chart you were asked to open and save at the beginning of this session. This chart is helpful when you are looking at the student learning outcomes, as the verbs used to write the SLOs and EOs can be found on this chart. The model questions and instructional strategies on this chart represent some examples for creating discussions and student learning experiences in the classroom or in the Canvas learning environment. We'd like to mention here again that active engagement should be the primary focus of learning experiences for students. Once you have looked over the student learning outcomes for the course and have determined the most important and least important types of engagement strategies, you will be more prepared for managing each class session and how to most effectively engage your students. Now, take a moment to carefully consider some engagement strategies that come to your mind. Think about how well they align with the overall planned level of assessments for the course, and most importantly, the very next planned assessment project or assignment. Begin by taking a look at the SLOs and EOs and the blooms chart. At what level of blooms does your session topic fall? Pause as you review the language provided. Before students are ready or able to tackle the next graded assessment, project, or assignment, it is important to give students some sort of practice. In order to do this, instructors should think about developing similar or related activities and experiences which would help students practice the type of thinking or doing that they will be expected to perform during the upcoming graded assignment, project, or assessment. Let's review some helpful questions as you work to ignite your own creativity. Consider your own expertise and also the SLOs for your course as you ask yourself, what will I do to explain the topic? What will I do to illustrate the topic in a different way? How can I engage students in the topic? What are some relevant real-life examples, analogies, or situations that can help students understand the topic? What will students need to do to help them understand the topic better? Come back to these questions often in your reflecting and planning stages. Consider your industry and professional field. What up-to-the-moment information or tools do students need to know about or use? What do you bring to the topic in class from a personal and professional standpoint? You probably already have some wonderful ideas about how to engage your students. There are many worthwhile ideas and suggestions to consider. Please remember that your campus academic affairs contact is there to help you. Let's move on to some very practical and even tangible ideas. Here are some tried and true strategies to use during class which will foster engagement. Naturally, these are only a few of the many ways to engage your students during class time. It's important to note that engagement should be purposeful in order to be effective. There's nothing wrong with lecturing to students when it is appropriate to do so, and there is something wrong with just doing an activity or creating an experience without any real reason behind it. The most important thing is to value your instructional time during class by allowing students to engage with course material by fostering an environment where they interact and become immersed in course concepts in a meaningful and purposeful way. Let us also reiterate the importance of engaging the student at the right cognitive level of Bloom's taxonomy. Before you begin the process of outlining everything for the semester, the remaining components of planning for student engagement are important to be familiar with as you design activities and experiences for your students. The Baker College Plan for Student Engagement outline will help you plan how you will engage your students. Additionally, it's important to assess students while they are involved in or just after these practice activities or experiences take place. This type of assessment is called formative assessment. In most cases, formative assessment takes place without grading of any kind. Formative assessment refers to a wide variety of methods that teachers use to conduct in-process evaluations of student comprehension, learning needs, and academic progress during a lesson, unit, or course. Formative assessments help teachers identify concepts that students are struggling to understand, skills they are having difficulty acquiring, or student learning outcomes they have not yet achieved, so adjustments can be made to in-class engagement experiences, instructional techniques, and even supplemental instruction. In short, these less formal and many times ungraded assessments are incorporated right in class activities and learning experiences. These little assessments give students a chance to practice the necessary skills and abilities that they will be required to execute during upcoming summative and graded assessments, projects, and presentations. Let's take a look at some helpful questions to ask while considering assessment. Assessment should be ongoing throughout the class and should be performed at various times. It is important to check for student background knowledge on the topic, check to see if students are keeping up with the terminology and concepts, and after laying a foundation check for understanding before proceeding. There are many ways you can check for understanding. A few examples are discussions, questioning, group activities, quizzes, tests, projects, or presentations. Once you know the how and the why behind the student learning outcome, you need to think about how will you determine whether your students are prepared and ready to reach the student learning goals. What experiences can you create to help your students become prepared for their student learning outcomes? What evidence will you collect which will help you determine their readiness? Under what conditions will the assessment be completed? What degree of accuracy or level of mastery do you expect? Since Baker College is a BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device institution, it is important to point out that many good formative assessment practices and learning experiences can be conducted with the use of technology. So you also need to ask yourself, how will I integrate technology and what technology will I require of my students? Ultimately, how are you going to use the technology to engage your students? How will use of this technology foster learning or create a purposeful and meaningful experience for your students? An effective instructor is always reflective and flexible. Be mindful of the possibilities of making needed adaptations to your engagement plans. To bring this full circle, now that you know which engagement experiences and activities you will plan for your students, you are ready or nearly ready to completely fill in this document, save it, and upload it to your course in Canvas. This document will guide your students as they will be aware of all of the course requirements along with getting a good idea of strategic plans for the course. Just a reminder, once you have clicked on the assignment summary and downloaded it, you can save it and begin editing the document. You can right-click once inside the document in order to add or remove rows as necessary. The following questions will help you make decisions on the spot and adjust your engagement plan as needed. Having additional examples or alternative activities will also allow you to be flexible. A realistic timeline will reflect your readiness to adapt to the specific classroom environment. Here are some strategies for creating a realistic timeline. In your engagement plan, make sure you indicate how long the activity will take. Plan a few minutes at the end of class to answer any questions and sum up key points. Plan an extra activity or discussion question in case you have time left. Your contractual time is that you meet till the end of the class period. Be ready to adjust your engagement plan to students' needs and focus on what seems to be more productive rather than sticking to your original plan. This brings us to reflective teaching practice, which is important because it allows an instructor to look back and consider the actions and events that took place during a class session. It helps instructors gain insight into their teaching, which results in continuous self-evaluation and change. It is essential because it embraces a willingness to look at classroom experiences and adapt strategies accordingly. It provides a framework for ongoing assessment of pedagogy. It relies upon the instructor developing knowledge about how students learn, and it models metacognition, or thinking about thinking, that we would want for our own students. At Baker College, we promote and encourage our faculty to become reflective practitioners, and as you will see over the course of your career with Baker College, you'll be asked to reflect a considerable amount of time. Effective instructors continuously practice self-evaluation and self-critique as learning tools. Through reflective practice, instructors monitor their classroom experiences because they want to be better. Reflective practice can initially result in confusion for the instructor. The process requires open-mindedness, honesty, and a sufficient time to change teaching behaviors. Here are a few questions to keep in mind as you reflect on your engagement plan. What worked well each class session? What didn't work? What will you change going forward the next time you teach this course? Did you notice any patterns as you look through your materials from last semester? Did you see any major areas of organization that you need to change going forward? Keeping these questions in mind as you reflect will improve your effectiveness in the classroom. A plan for student engagement may not work as well as anticipated due to a number of reasons, but don't get discouraged. Being a reflective instructor means that you are willing to work toward improving your plans each time you teach the class. This concludes our session. Please take the quiz in Module 4.